Simple or direct analogy. What is analogy? Analogy is a comparison between two things on the basis of their structure and for the purpose of explanation or clarification. In other words, analogy is used to compare two completely different things or ideas that are similar in some way. The comparison is used to determine the relationship between different sets of things. You are comparing them because you want to make a concept easier to understand. Take note that an analogy can be written in two ways. Look at the following examples. Analogy can be written in longer version, just like singer is to sing as writer is to write, or in shorter version, using colons and double colon, we still read this as singer is to sing as writer is to write. You have learned that a word analogy is a vocabulary problem that you solve. Now, how do you solve a word analogy? Of course, it is by building or writing a bridge sentence. Just as a bridge crosses a river to join two shores, a bridge sentence connects two words based on their meanings and how they relate to each other. To begin solving a word analogy, make up a very simple sentence that shows the relationship between the keywords. It should be short and to the point. For examples, straw is to sip. The bridge sentence is a straw is used to sip. Next is cactus is to spines. A cactus has spines. And then rose is the flower. The bridge sentence is a rose is a type of flower. Let's build some bridge sentences. Build a bridge sentence for the keywords below. Hawk is to talons. The bridge sentence is a hawk has talons. Lower is to raise. Lower is the opposite of raise. Soap is to clean. The bridge sentence is a soap is used to clean. Child is to young. A child is young. Link is to chain. A link is part of a chain. Rat is to rodent. A rat is a type of rodent. What are the common types of analogies? The first bridge type is synonym. Synonym, it refers to a word having the same meaning. For example, loud is to noisy as blank is to blank. The bridge sentence is loud is the synonym of noisy. Let us use this pattern to solve this analogy. Letter A. Near is the synonym of far. This is incorrect. Next. Open is the synonym of close. Okay, wrong. Letter C. Slim is the synonym of slender. Okay. And then letter D. Nice is the synonym of unkind. Okay, this is incorrect. The correct answer is letter C. Slim is to slender. So loud is to noisy as to slim is to slender. The second type is the antonym or the opposite analogy, meaning the words are opposite in terms of meaning. For example, permanent is to temporary as blank is to blank. The bridge sentence is permanent is the opposite of temporary. Let us use this pattern to solve this analogy. Letter A. Ordinary is the opposite of plain. Letter B. Imaginary is the opposite of fake. C. Up is the opposite of down. Letter D. Start is the opposite of begin. The correct answer is up is the opposite of down. So permanent is to temporary as up is to down. The third bridge type is the characteristic analogy. This analogy mostly comprises the adjectives but not for all cases. So let us try to solve this analogy. Dreamer is to idealistic as blank is to blank. The bridge sentence is, a characteristic of a dreamer is to be idealistic. Letter A characteristic of a teacher is to be ignorant. Letter B, a characteristic of a slave is to be submissive. Letter C, characteristic of a parent is to be feminine. Letter D, a characteristic of an infant is to be skilled. So what is the correct answer? Using the bridge type characteristic analogy. The correct answer is letter B. Characteristic of a slave is to be submissive. So dreamer is to idealistic as slave is to submissive. The fourth bridge type is part to whole analogy. So let us try to solve this analogy using this bridge type. Finger is to hand as blank is to blank. The bridge sentence is, a finger is part of a hand. Okay, letter A, petal is part of a flower. Letter B, boat, a boat is part of a ship. Letter C, a bed is part of a sleep. Letter D, a doll is part of a toy. The correct answer is letter A. Petal, a petal is part of a flower. So finger is to hand as petal is to flower. Next bridge type is the degrees of a characteristic analogy. So let us try to solve this analogy using this bridge type. Cruel is to kind as blank is to blank. So the bridge sentence is, someone who is cruel is very unkind. So let us use this bridge sentence for us to solve this analogy. Letter A, someone who is arrogant is very flexible. Letter B, someone who is vicious is very aggressive. Letter C, someone who is frightening is very entertaining. Letter D, someone who is evil is very good. The correct answer is letter B. Someone who is vicious is very aggressive. So cruel is to kind as vicious is to aggressive. The sixth bridge type is the type or kind analogy or object and classification analogy. So this analogy uses adjectives but not for all cases. So let us try to solve this analogy using this bridge type. Square is to quadrilateral as blank is to blank. The bridge sentence is, a square is a type of quadrilateral. So letter A gun is a type of weapon. Letter B, an instrument is a type of violin. Letter C, a color is a type of red. Letter D, an airplane is a type of spacecraft. So the correct answer is letter A. A gun is a type of weapon. So square is to quadrilateral as gun is to weapon. The seventh bridge type is the object to worker analogy. So for example, pen is to writer as blank is to blank. So the bridge sentence is pen is an object used by a writer. Let us use this pattern for us to solve this analogy. Letter A, palm is an object used by a pen. Letter B, speaker is an object used by a listener. Letter C, pie is an object used by a baker. Letter D, knife is an object used by a chef. The correct answer is letter D. So pen is to writer as knife is to chef. The next bridge type is the action to object analogy. Okay, so let us use this pattern, action and then object. So hop is the action and then the object is the frog. So hop is to frog as blank is to blank. So the bridge sentence is to hop is the act of a frog. Okay, so letter A, to write is the act of a talk. Letter B, to fly is the act of a bird. Letter C, to student is the act of a school. Letter D, to listen is the act of a touch. The correct answer is letter B. To fly is the act of a frog. So hop is to frog as fly is to bird. The eighth bridge type is the item to function analogy. So one word is object and another one is the related function. So for example, fork, you use a fork to eat. So let us use this bridge sentence for us to solve this analogy. So the correct answer is letter D. You use a pencil to write. So fork is to eat as pencil is to write. The 10th bridge type is the worker to product analogy. So let us use this pattern for us to solve this analogy. So baker is to pie as blank is to blank. The bridge sentence is baker makes pie. So the correct answer is letter D. Poet makes poem. So baker is to pie as poet is to poem. And then the last bridge type is lock analogy. So let us try to solve this analogy. Clumsy is to grace as blank is to blank. Let us use this bridge sentence as our guide. Someone who is clumsy lacks grace. So what is the correct answer? Letter A. Someone who is hopeless lacks faith. So clumsy is to grace as hopeless is to faith. Here are some important things to remember when you think about analogies. First thing to consider is the parts of speech. If the words in the first pair express a noun followed by adjective or verb and then noun or adjective to adjective relationship, for instance, the second pair should show the same relationship between parts of speech. And then the second thing that you need to consider is the order of the words. So if the first pair expresses a if the first pair expresses an object, user, and then the object relationship, for instance, the second pair must express the same relationship in the same order. And then the last thing that you need to consider is the exactness. Sometimes two or more of the given choices would make fairly good sense in the blank. When this happens, you should choose the word or pair of words which most exactly suits the relationship you are expressing. Okay, so that's all for today. I hope you have learned something from this video. Shalom.